got a lot of ambition for the football club to take it forward and to see it several rungs higher than where we find ourselves today. Part of one of the critical next steps in us doing that and achieving that is to get a training facility that is wholly suitable for professional football. 9 Acre has been brilliant for us in what was a time of a lot of instability for the club, with Colliers Park moving on into different ownership, and it's allowed us to continue to train in the centre of the town. But what the Grove site, subject to all of the things that we will need to do to be able to turn this from where we are today into reality, is what it will do is enable us to build a purpose-built training site that's properly drained, that we can irrigate with water, that can be a real asset to the football club to help us develop and get back to where we hope to be and where our supporters expect us to be. We would see we would do this in phases, with the first phase being in making sure that we've got the football pitches that are of the relevant standard, and then move on to develop along with car parking and the irrigation part and drainage and all that, and then move on to potentially some sort of clubhouse at the site. So extremely exciting times for the football club. Over a number of years ago, a lot of the assets of the football club were required to be sold under previous owners just for the very existence of the club, and bit by bit, brick by brick, with the cooperation and help of partners, including Glyndŵr University, in which we partnered to get back the effective ownership of the racecourse ground on a 99-year lease, and now in partnership with the council, we are putting back in place those strategic things that you need to progress as a football club. So we're extremely delighted, extremely excited, and we hope within the next couple of years we could be in a position where we're kicking our first ball at the Grove site.
You know, hopefully, you know, when we move forward together, they've got a guarantee of a 150-year lease here, so they can invest in the site and put all the things on that Spencer said. So there's security there now, and there's nothing short-term here. This is planning for the future, and they can have confidence as a club, you know, that they can move forward and invest in that site, you know, and it will be theirs for 150 years.
Yeah, I'd say one of the things I would say about the particular site is, you know, from our time at 9 Acre, if I was a resident, I would be thinking, you know, in all the possible uses of that particular site, what is the best possible outcome if I was a resident on Panamais Avenue or around that area? And I would be, you know, I would be thinking, you know, on hearing that news, that this is as good an outcome for the local residents, you know, from an environmental point of view, but not only that, that we've got that we will have something, should subject to all of those things come into fruition, and we get the and this all goes through, is that there really is something now that can really help us drive Wrexham Football Club forward. I spoke to our captain Sean Pearson earlier on to let him know that we were going to, out of courtesy, that we were going to do this, and what he said to me was, we've been talking as a team, and we've said the only thing really this football club needs now is a proper training pitch. So, you know, and now hopefully together in partnership with what I see as a very progressive council, is that we can deliver upon that, and it really powers the football club forwards.
You mentioned it being a Christmas gift. Gifts from Wrexham Council to the football club have been quite rare historically. I think in the 2009 planning, it was councillors taking advice from officers on the gamble of the flats. Since then, this year, the flats obviously been sold for £11 million with nothing going back to the football club. There's a degree of scepticism, it's probably fair to say, from football fans to Wrexham Football Club. Do you recognise that? And I suppose what's the catch?
Well, first of all, yes, I do recognise that, and I can't do anything about the past. I can only look forward to the future. I think you're quite right. I think there was a lot of trust issues at the time with the planning application, etc. And I raised concerns, and a lot of elected members did. But you know, the planning process of that, them buildings on that site went through the planning process, went through all the checks and balances, and it was awarded planning. I didn't agree with it. I still don't agree with it, but that's just me as an individual. Coming back to where we are today, there's no catch here. Absolutely, we're doing this in partnership, in good faith. You know, we will sign over the 150-year lease. We want to work with the football club because, you know, we all know the past of the club, how difficult it's been for them as a club. But this is a wonderful, I wouldn't say present, partnership working. I wouldn't say gift either, but you know, we will work in partnership and we will sign the lease, and then they have a permanent training facility which they can be proud of within Wrexham. On what we can be proud as Wrexham residents and people. No catch here at all. This is done, you know, genuinely to help and support the football club and Wrexham as a place.
I think I should make a couple of comments here as well in terms of, you know, I think you ask an absolutely right question, Rob, but there isn't a catch here. You know, we've sat down with the council in very, very collaborative, open discussions. We've shared a lot of information together and placed a lot of trust in each other through those discussions, yeah, I would say. And that produces trust in relationships, and it produces creative ideas, which this, you know, I would put into that bracket. It will enable the football club to be right in the heart of the town. It's right in the heart of the town, because the football club is almost like the heart of the town. There's a very famous poem by Brian Martin Davies. It's in Welsh, but it's called Game Pale Droid Wrexham. And it's all in Welsh, but it describes the racecourse as the heart of the town, and all of the streets surrounding it like the veins, and people with their scarves, red and white, like the red and white blood cells as they're going around. It's an incredible poem, but it really centres around what I think and what the vast majority think about the football club is. It really is a beating heart of the town. And then if you look at all of the things that are happening at the football club under community ownership, so we look at year on year we get stronger on the pitch and stronger off the pitch. We're being really, really progressive in terms of looking for opportunities such as this, and hopefully this all goes to plan, and we're in a new purpose-built training facility within a couple of years. But also the Western Gateway that Ian talks about. A year last October, I went down with a couple of other directors and politicians to the Assembly, to the Senedd down in Cardiff, and started the ball rolling on explaining to people that the racecourse is a strategic asset for the people of Wales. It's also a benefit for the football club, but ultimately and fundamentally it's a strategic asset for Wales. Why? It's a strategic asset because north of the M4 corridor there is nothing really of sufficient size and scale that would enable into the top level international sport and international cultural events, whether those be concerts or whatever, to happen outside of that small area of Wales. And therefore for us to be part of that one nation, we've consistently banged the drum about the racecourse, and that will benefit not just the football club but the town, as we saw from the Stereophonics concert last year, but the region of North Wales. And the announcement of an full international game again at the racecourse in March is another milestone that just shows that. And just imagine, you know, we'll be able to get somewhere in the region of 11,000 in for that game. should we have 5,000 or 6,000 additional seats, the racecourse becomes a much more viable option for those types of events on a much more regular basis, and we will continue to bang the drum on that on behalf of our members. And we believe, in the same vein that that our partnership with the council has been enhanced and enabled by the fact that we're under community ownership, so will any discussions with national government over the Western Gateway.
Spencer, I was just going to ask, are you able to talk about, you mentioned pitches plural, potentially some kind of facility on there, better drainage. What's your vision for that site, I suppose?
So I think what we need to put our detailed proposal to the council. So I don't want to go too far down that road now, but ultimately we'd like to have something that resembles what you would class as a professional training venue. So there is enough scope, and what we'd be intended to do on the site is to create one pitch that's an exact replica of the racecourse pitch, with the same dimensions, the same soil structure, and all of those good things with drainage and irrigation. So I mean, if you go back to our time at Colliers was a brilliant facility, but there was no irrigation there. So whilst it drained pretty well, at times of the summer it was like concrete and very difficult to use. So we're even hoping, versus what the pitches were like there, we can create something that's got better pitches than we had there at that point in time. So we'd be looking at a second pitch, probably slightly smaller, the second pitch, but still within the bounds of what would be playable in the Football League. So you're looking at two pitches. We'll need car parking spaces, so there's enough car parking spaces, so there's zero impact to local residents. And then beyond that, we'll be looking at some form of clubhouse where there's some form of changing facilities and medical and other things that you would put in place, and you would see any professional training facility. So that we do have some outline plans, but we need to put them forward in front of the council in detail.
Can I just touch on that, Rob? Obviously that will go through natural progression through the planning process. The football club will submit their plans to the planning department, we will look at it and it will go through, and then everybody will have an opportunity through the consultation and through the planning process. So that's the norm on anything as we do it. If it was anybody, regardless whether it's Wrexham Football Club or a major developer, it'd be the same process.
So three processes, isn't it? Assets process to go through, because there's all the valuation areas, the planning process to go through, and the legal process to go through in terms of covenants and agreements. So we know, and those processes have their level of independence to ensure that they're looked at and done from a due diligence point of view.
Rob, can I just touch on, you mentioned about the budget process and that, nothing to do with that at all, and sometimes people might be out there thinking, well, this is too good to be true, and I understand that, but Wrexham Council are working in true partnership with the football club to deliver a training facility which will benefit Wrexham Football Club, but also the town and the communities around it. And I believe that, and that's why I'm sitting here today working in true partnership with us. There's no gimmick here, I can assure you, but I do understand that some supporters and people of Wrexham, on how the football club has, let's say, been treated in the past, I can understand the suspicion, I really do. But what I would say is, times have moved on. There was different owners at the club at the time, and they had different ideas for the club and different reasons for it. But when I sit down with partners, I believe that if you work in true partnership and you've got genuine partners, which I believe we have, I think we can move forward, and I think Wrexham as a place can move forward as well.
So just a quick one for Spencer. In terms of the funding for this from the football club's perspective, is that already in place?
So we have, as a board, we've done our due diligence and feasibility on what we would want to put in place, and got a full costing model of where we believe that nets out. We've on the phase one element of it, which would be enough to for us to be up and running and playing at the site. The funds are in place and allocated and have been voted on by the board. So we're in a position to be able to move. Should we be able to navigate our way through the three separate processes as described by Ian.
Finally, I was just going to say that I think we're fourth with the game in hand. We've got a new management team, big gates, stadium lease you touched on already. Events there every year now. International's back, training ground now as well. What's the plan for 2019 then?
Well, there's one missing ingredient. There's one missing ingredient, and we've been building and building and building. I know the last 4 years, and last year was pretty cruel, right? And we've had some bad luck along the way, getting 98 points one season and not doing it, getting to the playoff final, being the better team and not doing it. But we have got the basis of a really good side. We will be adding to it in January, and we want to get out of this division. This division is the bottleneck for us. I firmly believe, and as a board we firmly believe, once we get out of this division, it won't be long before we go up again, because of the funding structure and the way in which the Football League is organised, which is different to the governance that there are at our level. It makes us even more, and we're competitive at our level, but it makes us even more competitive at the division above. So a successful, thriving football club is really good for the town. And under the community ownership, when we took over, when we took over the club, commercial income was next to nothing. We've grown that to £750,000 per year now. Community ownership has delivered for Wrexham Football Club, and we hope that it's going to continue to, and we expect it to deliver and take us where we want to go. And when we do it, and we will, when we do it, every single fan who's contributed, whether it's to build the budget or to their membership, will have been part of achieving that themselves. Not somebody else doing it for them, they will have delivered that themselves. And along the way, and where we are now, we're starting to get and build the partnerships behind the scenes, because people trust who we are, what we stand for, and the way in which we go about it. And that's enabling trusting relationships and announcements such as today, announcements such as international football back at Wrexham. There is a wave of positivity and optimism coming around the club. Next stage is promotion.